mountains and 8 seas make one world. 1,000 worlds make one chiliocosm. One chiliocosm to the power of 3, and there's nothing I can't cut.
As I've stated before, this is the culmination of 3 years, both inverse and outburst. We finally got Karma Sealed Boruto up in the mix. Now, I want to anticipate how strong this version of Boruto is, whether there's going to be a massive difference, which most likely will be, than this Karma version 1 Boruto, and then possibly a Horn State or maybe a Momoshiki takeover. Huge difference of power. We already understand that, right? Boruto is about to turn up. Mamushi is definitely going to be in for a ride, so to say, in this upcoming next few chapters. But I really want to focus on not more so I can say like Karma Boruto, his actions, what is going to be like the dynamics once Kawaki pops up on the battlefield. We're going to get to those type of topics and discussions because, rightfully so, what will happen once Kawaki pulls up to the battlefield? Is Boruto only able to control the karma for the time being? Maybe if he's in the vicinity by himself, but Kawaki is a negative trigger, meaning he might trigger some type of resonance that's going against Boruto will that probably gives more power or more life to Momoshiki's essence, Momoshiki's conscience within the karma, allowing Momoshiki to take over the psyche as opposed to Boruto, right? Who knows what type of hindrance it can propel to Boruto once Kawaki shows up on the battlefield. Who knows how long Boruto himself can even maintain this form. We may even see in Sage Mode Naruto type of parallel where he can only hold this form for, let's say, 30 to 45 minutes before he starts seeing serious repercussions, probably massive drainage and chakra, or probably that itchy or tingly feeling that he says he doesn't necessarily like, where he feels like he's alive and dead, similar to the times where Momoshiki is taking over his body. What is the deal with Momoshiki? That's what we're focusing on. What exactly were the agreements that these two came together? We know in the previous chapter, earlier on in the arc, Boruto was on the house. He was watching Himawari train with Kurama. He got an idea sparked in his brain. He said, let me go talk to the inner demon that's within my psyche, similar to how my little sister is training with her inner demons, right? And we see for the first time in Blue Vortex, this guy Momoshiki is alone. He's depressed. He's chilling on the last battlefield where he had an exhilarating fight with Naruto and Sasuke before he got obliterated by that giant Rasengan, and his life took a turn for what he thought would be the best, giving Boruto that prophecy, those blue eyes will take everything away from you, but actually ended up being the worst because now he's in a state where he's constantly and eagerly awaiting and wishing for death, i.e. Boruto, to fall in battle so they both can pass on and just be done with this once and for all. What exactly is the deal? Long story short, or I could say more likely than not, I think there's going to be only a few ways we can go about this, right? So one is going to be a mysterious way. I was trying to juggle between saying two versions of the same word, but in that case, I really don't want to say like pinpoint exactly what type of deal went down between the two, but more so like the element of surprise, which still is, but the element of surprise is something that's going to really shake our expectations, meaning I don't necessarily think it's something so heavily that we can see on Boruto's end or something so heavily we can see on Momoshiki's end, where we see Momoshiki probably offer a rebuttal to Boruto's deal, or maybe Boruto's deal was just all Momoshiki needed to hear and they came to that sudden agreement. But there's definitely going to be a mystery factor that goes into play, whether it be something similar, think to JJK, where Yuji and Sukuna both came to an agreement in season 1. Now, one of the terms of those agreements was that after this conversation, Yuji will forget the entirety of the agreement, meaning that they both still somehow, some way hold up their end of the bargain. But Yuji doesn't remember the conversation nor the bargain he made with Sukuna. So I'm not going to say Momoshiki is going to grant that same type of not quote unquote luxury to Boruto, but I do believe that this quote-unquote deal between the two can correlate into something further down the line, something in the future that bites Boruto in the neck, meaning something that for the time being, like, yeah, he's willing to do it, and it's actually the best option for now, but maybe a few weeks, a few months down the line, or maybe once certain conditions are met, that's when this deal is actually going to take a turn for the worse. There's so many different angles or scenarios we can look at it from the mysterious from the mysterious angle that I'm trying to basically paint the picture for you guys right now. But for the more than likely situation, right? I think it's more so Boruto is honing or being lent Momoshiki's power, and then he's gonna do what he does. He might even be able to access a horn state on his own. But once Boruto himself is able to get these problems or situations out the way, then he will allow Momoshiki to take over. That or something similar in that case, which will be our third option, where Momoshiki is allowing Boruto to use his power, but there will be instances where Momoshiki can take over or will take over to better utilize the power. Basically, let's say, okay, versus this Momushi invasion, maybe versus a Hidari, Boruto is able to use his Karma Seal, possibly even able to access a horn state on his own. But once we come across someone like Jura, Momoshiki actively takes over Boruto's consciousness because they both understand and come to an agreement. Momoshiki is able to draw out more power from this body as opposed to how much power Boruto is able to draw out. So in that case, Momoshiki will be the one to take down Jura, and after that, everything will be falling according down the line. Basically, Momoshiki is there in the present, and Kawaki more than likely will be left in order to handle or deal with Momoshiki taking over Boruto's body. I think that's possible, but I really, really want to deal with the fact that Jura is like the... Now, don't get me wrong. Actually, before I say that, I want to see a conversation between Jura and Momoshiki. I know for a fact slurs we've never knew were slurs before are going to be hurled at Jura as soon as Momoshiki lays eyes on him. So I do want to see that interaction. But for the mere fact, I think that Jura is the op for Boruto and Kawaki. He's the type of enemy that either one of the two, or maybe even throw Himawari in there, one of the three or all three need to defeat him, not some outside party like Momoshiki. So going back to our second option, Momoshiki agreed to let Boruto use his power however much he's able to use his power. But once he is done, basically, Momoshiki then has an agreement with Boruto that Boruto will allow his psyche to be taken over by Momoshiki. Now, what do I mean by once he is done? Basically, once all the Shinju and possibly even Code are out the way. So that means the agreement is not to necessarily fix omnipotence or even deal with the situation or problems with Kawaki, but to place trust in Kawaki in the fact that once they deal with these other outside threats, the Shinju, Code, and i.e. any other major Otsutsuki or threat that might pop up, but once those are dealt with, then, you know what I'm saying, Momoshiki will take over Boruto's body and have full control. But as a countermeasure, basically Boruto's backup plan to his backup plan, Kawaki will still be there. Basically, he's not going to do anything about omnipotence, and have Kawaki or possibly other friends, maybe Himawari, maybe Sarada, who are still alive after all of these current events are done going down, in order to take down on Momoshiki taking over Boruto's body. Now, I believe that might be the more than likely way. I can't say it's more than likely. I just really want to see Boruto use his full karma. Like, we saw Kawaki use part of his karma, full karma, and then even the horn state. Every time we've seen a horn state for Boruto, it's always Momoshiki taking over. I want to see if Boruto is able to access a horn or a deeper version of his karma. Is he able to utilize some of the powers or elegance that we see Momoshiki is able to do when he's taking over Boruto's body? Whereas Boruto, he's only been able to fully able to be in control of that karma version 1 state. Of course, we saw in the battle against Code in part 1, he did activate a mode where Code called it like kind of his true essence karma, but in Boruto's case, it wasn't even like anything crazier other than the fact that a Byakugan manifested in his eyes, similarly to how when Momoshiki is able to take over Boruto's body, but in this case for Boruto, no horn was able to manifest. A difference in power was definitely there, right? But I still want to see how much and how far Boruto can go himself with his own conscience in control with this karma seal. So I think the deal between him and Momoshiki lies in those lines where Boruto is able to utilize as much as the power he's able to draw out from Momoshiki without having to worry about Momoshiki himself taking advantage of any cracks or leaks he may see in order to take over Boruto's psyche. So that way Boruto can fight and utilize whatever full power he's able to muster up with a peace of mind at the very least, and understanding, well, I'm still going to be in control. Like, Momoshiki isn't going to try to backdoor me and take over my body in this instance, right? Based off of whatever deal they made. Now, as for the actual concrete details of the deal, how does each one basically ensure that they're upholding their part of the deal? Now, I can't say it's something like in JJK where we have heavenly pacts, basically where the law of the universe, the law of the world binds or forbids anybody for breaking some type of vow or breaking any type of pact that they make. We don't have that here within the Boruto verse. So it has to be something so significant or something very compelling to the point where Momoshiki has no choice but to agree. I don't think it's that crazy for Boruto on his end because he's the one obviously bringing the proposition. He needs the power. He wants the power. But for Momoshiki, why is he willing to accept the terms and conditions? And how sure is he that this might be his last hope? Because we've seen he's ready to die. He's wishing to die. But this last proposal by Boruto somehow can change or somehow has already changed everything, possibly even seeing different fragments of a future that Momoshiki, now he learned his lesson. This time he's probably just going to keep it to himself rather than saying, hey, those blue eyes going to take everything away from you. Not yet, just a little bit longer. You know what I'm saying? Just be patient, right? So right now, it's too many open ends, too many open doors that we can see. But for the fact that this deal has been made and it's solidified by the fact that we see Boruto using this Karma Seal, it's going to be interesting to see how these terms will come into an agreement and how long or how far down the line Boruto will be able to utilize this power before Momoshiki, i.e., takes over, or Momoshiki upholds his end of the bargain. And what role ultimately does Kashin Koji play into this? Does he know exactly the bargain or deal that's being made? Does he know just the concept or the idea that Boruto went to Momoshiki with the bargain or idea? Or is it something that they both planned, like, hey, Boruto, you need to go to Momoshiki. I've seen this in many futures and make this deal with him. And it's just a matter of the details of the deal itself. Let me know how y'all feel about it. All in all, I'm looking forward to seeing more Karma Boruto, but definitely looking forward to seeing my guy Momoshiki pop back up in the story again. So let me know y'all thoughts about their deal and how do you think it actually transpired. Into my next video. Holla at your boy. I'm gonna holla at y'all, black at you out. Yes, sir. Ski.